Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And today we're talking about 10 things a trader can do right from Thinkorswim charts without ever leaving charts, and not necessarily just charting, drawing, or adding technical studies. There are lots of other things that a chartist can do or a trader can do right from within Thinkorswim charts. Should be a really interesting discussion. Before we get to any of that, though, let me first of all say hello to everyone joining us out there in YouTube chat. Great to see familiar names. Great to see a couple maybe here that are new, joining us for the first time. But hello there, Scott, Jackson, Richard, Marquise, Robert, everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. We always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you do happen to be among those who are here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the live stream is concluded, enjoy the recording. It's a great way to watch these webcasts, but you're certainly invited to join us here in the live stream audience. If you'd like to be here, this is a Wednesday webcast series. We kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time. Now, I also want to let you know that my very good friend Brent Moores is hanging out in the chats with our live stream audience members. Brent's going to be keeping an eye on any questions that happen to come into that chat. If I can't get to those questions, Brent's there to help pick up my slack for me. Thanks for being there, Brent. Brent and I have been working together now for more than 20 years. So yeah, Brent brings a ton of experience to this discussion. Great resource to have here. Now, Brent and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody listening, whether you're here in the live audience or watching on the recording. You should be following your favorite Schwab presenters on social media. You can find us on X. You can find us on LinkedIn. To find and follow Brent on X, you go to @BrentMooresCS. To find me there on X, @CameronMayCS, or you can jump over to linkedin.com/in and then /CameronMayCS again, and that'll take you right to my profile. You can be a follow there, but that's where to connect with me in between these live streams. But let's get into this discussion. As we do, of course, there are risks to be considered. That applies to trading or investing, to technical approaches and others. So this is important information. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including the loss of principal. All right, so let's set a quick agenda for what we're going to be talking about. So today we're going to be spending our time on a single chart. And yet, while we're looking at that chart, I'm going to take us to 10 additional functions beyond just loading up a technical study or applying a drawing to the chart that might assist that trader where they thought they might otherwise need to go to some other area on Thinkorswim. There are lots of tools embedded within charting that go well beyond just charting. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Let's go right to our example chart. And for today, we're going to be picking on Alphabet. So this is just our example stock. Google is going to be, let's go to the GOOGL. There we go. And this will be the Class A. And I'm going to load up just one technical observation here. Let's say that maybe our trader has been looking at Alphabet as it's been making its way higher, bouncing along an apparent price floor, possibly gaining momentum right here. And so maybe they want to place a trade. Well, it seems that the chart has already served its function. Now it's time to go to the trade tab, right? Actually, the first thing that we can do without leaving the chart is place a stock trade. And there are actually several different ways that we might do that. First way is just to right click on the chart and we get a pop-up that allows us to buy the shares, sell the shares, enter a custom order, maybe create an order with a stop attached or with an OCO bracket. We could even sell those shares with those same custom order configurations. So how about for this exercise, let's just select buy. And what you'll note is as soon as I select that, it brings up a little order confirmation dialog box where the default will be to purchase whatever we've selected in our default system settings. And in this case, for mine, it'd be 100 shares. And we just read through that confirmation. In the case of this order and other order types, there's no commission. There can be on some types of trades though, all right? But I could just send the order off right from there, or I could edit that order. This will bring up that sort of familiar trade drawer from the trade tab. and we can customize the order right from there. I'm not going to be doing that, but I did want to point out that the first thing the trader can do without leaving the chart is to place a stock trade. We can do that right-clicking. Now, we can also trade using the buttons on this right margin. There are actually 3 buttons that allow us to trade. The first one is the trade button. That seems obvious. So if we select that, it brings up an order screen right up here where we can buy, we can sell, we can modify quantities and order time frames, so on. Or we can accomplish a similar thing by clicking the buttons button. What that does is it brings up a similar pop-up, but it positions it to the right of the chart. So really these 3 are primarily about the position of the chart according to the trader's preference and the order tools. So if I click on buttons, now my order tools are off to the right. Or if I click on the dashboard button, it positions those down here at the bottom. So that's first thing that we can do right here from a chart is to place stock trades. That's nice, but for those that are in the audience saying, yeah, but Cameron, I'm more of an options trader, wish I could trade options from the charts. Well, we can do that too, while keeping a close eye on developments, technical developments with Alphabet. We can click on another button right over here, OC. If I click on that, that brings up the option chain. Very similar to what we see on the trade tab. It actually functions just like that. We set this to show both sides, the calls and the puts. Using the filters, we can change the spread from single to the other spread configurations, calendars, diagonals, straddles, strangles, and so on. We can customize columns here, just like we do on the option chain. How about we come down here to the 21st of August? Let's say we think the stock is going to run up for maybe, today being the 29th of July, maybe the next few weeks. We click on the option chain. That opens up the strikes. We can expand those strikes just like on the traditional options chain. Let's say we want 20 strikes displayed. Scroll down, find the at the money. Here are the calls on the left, the puts on the right, configured just like the familiar options chain. So again, just as a demonstration, let's see our stock's trading right at about $340. Let me just choose, for this example, the at the money strike. I'll go over to call, click on that ask price, and that brings up that order screen where we can customize the quantity, change the expiration, the strike price, the type, call to put if we want to. We could set limit, market, stop limit orders, and click confirm and send. There's our order confirmation dialog box again. So this, now notice on this one, if we were to submit this trade, this is one that would have a commission. I'll just call attention to that, but I'm not going to submit that trade. I did want to point out that we can place trades of all kinds, calls and puts and others. All right, so how do we get rid of this? When we've opened up the option chain, how do we get rid of it? How do we look at just the chart again? We click on the OC again. That removes that just as it would with our trade, with our buttons, and with our dashboard. All right. Now, one thing that we want to be cautious of, each time I point out the navigation of these buttons, the one for C stands for chart. If we should ever accidentally click on that, because I've done it, and then the first time it happened to me, there's a little bit of panic, a little bit of blood pressure increase, because the chart disappears. Even though we have our symbol here, there's nothing happening. Well, we just need to remember to click on the C again, and that retrieves that chart. It's a function that some traders will use from time to time as they're using these other tools, and they just want to temporarily hide the chart, but we need to remember how to presto change. I'll get that back on there. All right, there we go. So placing trades, stock trades, is number one. That's a thing that we can do right here from charts without leaving it. Number two is we can trade options right from charts. Number three is we can generate what we call alerts. These are notifications generated by the Thinkorswim desktop platform to let us know that something has happened that we previously said to the platform, we want to know about it. So give us a little notice. We can make a little noise if we happen to be on the platform, or send me a text or send me an email if something happens. So as an example, maybe our trader has looked at the stock rising off of this area of support, but they see, you know what, maybe we're right below a resistance line. Let me kind of draw that in so you can envision that. Right about that $340 level. Looks like that was a price ceiling for months at a stretch. It finally got up and through, and since then it's been more of a support. However, on this recent breakdown, getting back down to our trend line, could be a new ceiling again. So maybe our trader's not feeling great about possibly buying the shares right now while they're at 339.43. They could sit here, watch their computer, see if we can get back up above. Marquise says, how do I have these on the right side? They're just there by default on Thinkorswim desktop. If you're looking at something else like Thinkorswim web or Thinkorswim mobile, they won't be there. Yep, they're just default there off to the right. Anyway, well, we could sit here and see, oh, look at that. It just went above 340. All right, now I got to change my concept. Maybe we're waiting for this to get up above, who knows, let's say 350, whatever that threshold might be. For whatever reason the trader might be waiting. Maybe they'd like to get a notification from Thinkorswim if the stock, let's say, crosses above 350. We call those alerts. And right here on Thinkorswim charts, we could go and set those elsewhere on the platform. I'm going to set it right here from the chart. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to come down to where it says create an alert, little alarm bell there. And we just need to fill out this screen. So notify me, yes, on a price condition. There are other reasons we could select alerts. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on what an alert is. I just want to point out that it can be done from within charts. So in this case, we're going to notify on a price condition if the stock, Google, market price, let's say, is at or above 350. Let's type in 350. Let me know. And as a note, maybe this is a breakout at 350. This is just this is a note that would be delivered to me if I include that in the alert. Notice down here, this is giving me a visual reference on a sort of a mini chart. It's showing, all right, Cameron, this is where your alert's going to be at that $350 level. And then down below, I can just tell it how to notify me. So we can notify with a little sound. If we're on the platform, we can ask to have an email or a text message sent. Now, if we haven't set up Thinkorswim with our email account or with our phone number, we can add that right up here under setup. Let me do that for just a moment. Actually, I'll come back to that. Anyway, but we can just fill out the rest of this alert as we typically would and then just click create. But yeah, for those who haven't set this up, you can come up here to setup, go to application settings, and for your notifications from Thinkorswim, this is where we can enter an email or we can enter a text, a phone number for texting. Paper Money won't let me do that here, but I don't want to put in my email here anyway. There we go. I'll close that out. And so that's a third thing that can be done from within charts. All of these functions that we just need to know are there, and it really expands sort of the power of the platform. Number 4 is maybe we're looking at the chart, we see Alphabet going up, we wonder what is driving price today? I wish I could see the news. That's another thing that we can check very quickly. Right down here, N for news, I'm going to click on that button, and this gives me headlines that are related to the chart that I have, the symbol that I have charted right up here at the top. And then I can just click one. If there is an associated article to go along with the headline, some of these will have articles, some are just quick notifications. Let's see if I can get one that has an apparent article attached. Let's see. I'll double click on that one. Yep. And there's the article. So news can be checked. Let's see. Marcus says, too bad I can't practice on the simulation. Marcus, we can. Are you talking about, so you can go in there and put in your email address. I think you're talking about an alert. You know, one other thing, now that you've kind of called my attention back to alerts, there's kind of another nifty function. And speaking of paper money versus live, there's a function that is only available on live. Let me show you this. So now that we know that we can check news, we can double click on one of these headlines and see if there's an associated article. All of that can be done very quickly right there from charts. But let's leave the paper money platform and go over to the live platform. And yes, we can have both of them up at the same time. If we've already opened, let's say, paper money, if we go down and just right click on the Thinkorswim logo, if I were to right click on that, notice it says Thinkorswim here. If I click on that, it'll bring up another login screen, and I can just toggle that one to live trading and log in there. So I actually have already done that. So I have the live platform. This is just a fake live platform, just an example one going on. But I did change the color scheme. So the paper money, I'll keep it white when I have both going at the same time. The live one I have black, so it's very clear to me if I'm on the black one, this is live trading. It helps to prevent goofing things up. But here's something I wanted to note here. So Alphabet looks like we've gone back down below 340. That's okay. I'm going to say, let me say that we're waiting maybe to get above this candle high. What is that? 349. Yeah, 350. That's what we kind of threw out last time. I'm going to right click on this drawing I have here, and let's move it to 350. Just to give you a visual reference point. Let's say that we're waiting for price to climb up there above 350 and we'd like to get a notice. Now we can create an alert based on price, but we can also create alerts based on drawings. And this is only available on live. Lori says, can you have 2 live charts doing that? I will be showing you how to set up multiple charts as a little bit of a teaser here. One of the things that we can do on charts. Now, I don't know what you mean by can you have 2 live charts doing that? 2 live logins maybe? But you can have paper money and live money go at the same time, yes. But let's say that I've made I've drawn a line here, and I just want the system to generate an alert if price crosses my line that I've drawn. Well, then once I've drawn a line, I can actually right click on that and create an alert with that drawing. Now, if you try to do that on paper money, it's not going to be available. You can still do price alerts, just not drawing alerts here. So this is going to be notifying me on a drawing. And let's say we're looking for the intra-bar price. That just means the days, in the case of a daily chart, we want that bar or the price to cross above that price level. And that might still be our 350 breakout. And then we just set up the alert as normal down below. So if you didn't know that you can create alerts based on drawings, that can be done right there on Thinkorswim charts within the live platform. All right, so let's go back to our paper money. It's the only tool. I'm not going to need to go back to live anymore. That was one that I thought I might want to demonstrate. But placing stock trades, placing options trades, creating alerts, reading the news. Here's another little feature of Thinkorswim that gets kind of overlooked. It's kind of obvious in retrospect when somebody shows it to you, but it's an easy one to sort of ignore. And that is when we're making a drawing here, let's come down here and make sure that our active tool is the trend line tool, this one right up here. So it'll look like this down in our active tool icon. But when we create a drawing, Thinkorswim will actually show us the characteristics of that line that we're drawing. So for example, maybe we're measuring how far did this move from this support up to that resistance. Well, I can just come down here and click where we started the run. And as I start to move, you'll notice I get a little box that appears. So I didn't do anything to create that box. It's just there. But what that's doing is showing, first of all, the length of the drawing in days. It's showing that is in calendar days. It shows the length of the drawing in trading days, so 13 calendar days, including so far 9 trading days. It shows us the percentage change, positive or negative. If we draw in the opposite direction, it reverses that from positive to negative. It shows us the dollar amount. In this case, for Alphabet, so far we're up $52.43. And it shows the angle of change. The angle of change, I think that one could be a little bit more niche for application and trading, but I think the rest can be very valuable very quickly. But in any case, this continues calculating all of those criteria, all of those characteristics until I finish my drawing. If I make that second click, that little box disappears. So if we're in the habit of drawing quick drawings like this, our subconscious registers that there's a box, but it's easy to dismiss. Just remember that that box is a measuring device that can be done right here on charts. So measuring the size of moves, the length of moves, that might be helpful for our options traders or even our stock swing traders for anticipating how far they think it might go on the next move if it moves in the intended direction, and how long that might take to play out. We can take multiple measurements very quickly. All right, so we'll call that number 5. Fifth thing that we can do right here on charts, it's not explicitly charting, it's a function of the charts. Next up, speaking of news, I want to thank you, Brent, for those reminders. There are definitely things that can come along. We've done all of our technical work. We've added our favorite technical studies. We've made our drawings where we think things ought to be. And then along comes an earnings announcement, blows it up. Or along comes a dividend that causes the stock price to drop. Or maybe we're an investor and we're looking to get into the stocks before dividends are paid. In any case, those events that can influence a stock price that are driven by actions that the corporation is taking, they're actually known as corporate actions. Announcing an earnings, paying a dividend, announcing a stock split, all of those kinds of things. And those can be displayed right here on our charts. So I'm going to come up here to our chart settings icon. I'm going to click on this. And since we're talking about things affecting the stock, a stock is otherwise known as an equity. If I click on equities, I can check this box here that says show corporate actions, click apply, and click OK. And then I get these nifty little icons that give me little visual reminders of what has transpired regarding those corporate actions. So the green ones are dividends. You can see there was a 22-cent dividend on June 8th. The red and the orange ones are earnings announcements. We can see not only when that announcement occurred, but also the results of the announcement. Notice there's 911 here, there's 511 here, there's 282 here. There's 22 above the dividends. That's telling me, yeah, 22-cent dividend paid here. In this case, there was $5.11 earnings per share accomplished and reported on April 29th. And it even tells us what the market's expectation was. $2.63 was expected, $5.11 actual. What do you know? Positive reaction from markets. Markets don't always react positively just because the company generated larger than expected EPS. But those corporate actions can be accessed just that quickly. Chart settings, equities, show corporate actions was that path. But all of this is historical. I'm going to call that the sixth thing that we can do without ever leaving the chart. But history is nice. History is no longer tradable, though. Maybe the trader wants to see, well, what's around the bend? What corporate actions might be approaching? When is the next dividend going to be paid? When's the next earnings announcement going to be made? And for that, what we need to do is just create some extra space off here to the right of the chart. You'll commonly see our presenters where the last candle doesn't reach this right margin. There's actually some white space. And that's to allow for a number of things. Number one is for drawings that have been made to extend out into the future. Number two, though, is to allow us to see those corporate actions, those events that are on the calendar that haven't yet arrived. So let's add some extra space over here to the right. And a quick way to do that is to come right down here to this little double-headed arrow down there. This is the right expansion setting, expanding the chart to the right. If I click on that and change those right expansion settings, right now it's set to 0 bars. A bar is just a candle. So if we're on a daily candle, the bar would be 1 day. If we're looking at weekly candles, a bar would be 1 week and so on. But let's say I want to expand this out to try to look out for future corporate actions, including dividends, including earnings announcements. But Google just had its most recent earnings announcement, so I might have to move this out a little ways. Let's put in 65 bars. That's 65 trading days. That's that's about 2.5 months. So let me click apply. Actually, it's more like 3 months. Let me click apply and let's click OK. And yep, what do you know? There's the next dividend scheduled to be paid on September 4th. Here's the next earnings announcement. That's due October 28th. So the seventh thing that we can see, that we can do right here on charts without leaving charts, is to check for upcoming events. All right, I'm gonna minimize this a little bit. I usually keep that. You'll see that most commonly on my charts around 10. It's all personal preference. Set it where you like it if you use it at all. But number 8. You'll hear traders talk often about what's called overnight trading or after hours trading or extended hours trading or pre-market or post-market trading. What they're talking about is trading that's happening outside of the traditional opening bell and closing bell. So traditional trading hours are 9:30 Eastern until 4 o'clock Eastern. Here in the mountains of Utah, it's 7:30 Mountain till 2 o'clock Mountain Time. That's when the bulk of trading actually happens. Pardon me. But with lots of securities out there, there's additional trading that happens after that closing bell or before the opener. And for some technicians, they like to be able to see, what's been happening with that overnight trading, but it doesn't just show up on a chart by default. Here's how we can add that to our chart. For number 8, the number 8 thing we can do without leaving the chart is to check the overnight trading. We can do that right up here. We just need to change the time frame to an intraday chart. So instead of an intraday chart, day to day, let's go inside individual days. I'm going to go to the time frame here, and we're going to choose intraday. And how about we look over the last 5 days? I'm going to set this to a 5-day chart with maybe, let's say, an aggregation period is just a fancy term for candle. Let's say for 5-minute bars or 5-minute candles over the last 5 days. I'm going to click OK, and as I do that, you'll see the chart's a little bit different looking. We can still see our drawings up here and down here, but we now have these gray and white rectangles or boxes drawn around specific times. The white bars are the traditional trading hours. Traditional trading hours only going from 9:30 Eastern until 4 Eastern. That's what, 6.5 hours of trading. Well, that leaves 17.5 hours, a longer stretch that's outside of those normal trading hours. This is the overnight stuff that you've heard so much about. Now, it's entirely possible that, and by the way, you'll see this move literally overnight. So here's Sunday into Monday and so on. Here's Monday into Tuesday. But it's possible that you're not seeing these boxes. If you're not seeing them, there is an adjustment that might need to be made to your chart settings. So I'm going to go up here to chart settings. Again, we're looking at equities. So we're going to go back to, we're looking at stocks, again, called equities, sometimes referred to as equities. Right down here, next to time, there's a box that says Show Extended Hours Trading Session. And also there's a second one that says Highlight Extended Hours Trading Session. So for some, they might just like to show it, but they don't necessarily need it highlighted. They can uncheck the box for highlight, click apply. And now we just have kind of a white chart that's just a continuous flow. Normal hours trading, extended hours trading. Normal hours trading, extended hours trading. If we uncheck the box for Show Extended Hours Trading and we click apply, we don't see those at all. So now we're just seeing normal hours with a dash mark to show us where that after hours should have been. So if this is what you're getting, make sure that we go up here, we go to equities and check that box for Show Extended Hours Trading, click apply. So that is number 8 in 10 things we can do without leaving a chart. Now, by the way, are these the 10 things you can do without leaving a chart? No, there are lots of them. This is an example of 10 things that we can do without leaving the chart. All right. Number 9. Let's go back here. Let's switch this back to a 1-year chart. Just so we're looking at things sort of getting back to starting point again. Sometimes we want to see another chart, but we want to keep this chart here as well. Well, we can actually, without leaving this chart, access other charts. And that can be done using the Grid Charts tool right up here in the upper right. Right now it's just showing one chart, so it's showing as just one rectangle. If I want to see multiple charts, I can choose multiple rectangles in any number of configurations up to 8 charts horizontally, 4 charts vertically, or any configuration, a combination of those. So I'm just going to do 2. Let's do 2 side by side. So there's that alphabet chart still there. And maybe I wanted to have a look at, I don't know, Ford. Let's type in F for Ford. And this brings up an entirely separate, but now accessible right here on the same screen chart. We can change time frames, we can add technical studies, we can access all those other functions, including all of these right margin buttons that I've already demonstrated, all within the same chart. And if I want to get a closer look at it, I could even detach this, what we'd call a grid, this window. I can move it over. If you were sitting here behind me, you would see that I'm looking at the screen I'm presenting on. Off to the right is an extra monitor. Off to the left is a second extra monitor. Let me move this over to my right monitor for just a moment. And what do you know? I now have 4 charts. I have the original 2, and then I have 2 others that I just detached. I can even go back to just this first chart by selecting just one chart in the grid and still have my detached 2 over here. So that is the 9th thing that we can do without even leaving the chart. Really a lot of stuff that can be done here. All right, number 10 actually opens up a whole new world of other things that we can access. And that is, while keeping our chart up, we can move over here. And off to the far left, you'll see a little arrow. This is giving me access to the Gadgets column on the left. If you're not familiar with the gadgets, I've actually done a full video dedicated to the gadgets, so have other coaches. But this gives us access to all kinds of things, such as news, watch lists, calculators. You can see that right here. There's a calculator here. We can access public and private watch lists right here. We have a scratch pad. Make that bold. Hello, everybody. But so much that can be done there. Maybe one that I'll highlight here is the creation of a watch list. Maybe we have 5 or 10 stocks we're keeping an eye on, possibly intending to buy them if the right thing shows up on their chart. Well, we can create a watch list here by clicking on the current watch list heading. I'm just going to call this an example. We just start typing in symbols here. Let's do Ford. I'm going to be lazy, just use the short symbols. There's Citigroup, there's Visa. Let's throw some General Electric in there and so on. But we just create a watch list and save that. And then we can have access to that and navigate among those stocks right here while we have our charts open. But that's just an example of all of the sorts of gadgets that we could have going here in this left column, none of which require that we leave our chart. Okay, and if I'm done with my gadgets, I can just hide those gadgets by clicking on the little margin again. It tucks it away neatly. But guys, we've accomplished what I set out to do today. I wanted to talk us through 10 things that you can do without ever leaving the chart. So charts aren't just for charting. It's not just for adding technical studies. It's not just for making drawings. So much more can be done right from here. And I think that can really streamline a trader's efforts as they're trying to just be faster about things. being more efficient with things, it's helpful to know these functions. But time for me to let you go, guys. I hope this has been enjoyable for you. This is what we do with these Wednesday webcasts. I have a whole series of them that I've done previously, so you can go check those out. I even have a structured set of lessons for those that are brand new to Thinkorswim. So let me give you a quick heads up regarding some of those resources that I just mentioned, the additional things that are available from Schwab Education. Let me start with a suggestion here. If you haven't yet subscribed to our Trader Talks channel, please do that. Go down right below the video stream, click on subscribe. It only takes a second to do that. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to our channel. But this is where you can join these live streams like this one we're having right now, or you can go to the playlists of previous webcasts. So if I go to playlists here, 2 series that I want to draw your attention to. First of all, this webcast series is called Getting Started with Thinkorswim. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of all of our webcast series, there it is, Getting Started with Thinkorswim. I can see the view, I can click on View Full Playlist, and I can see last week's discussion was 10 hidden Thinkorswim features that beginners miss. The week before that was a guide to all 8 Fibonacci drawing tools on Thinkorswim charts, and so on. But another one that I wanted to call your attention to, let me scroll up more toward the top, and let me see, do I want to show it this way? It might just be, yeah, anyway, yeah, this will work just fine. Anyway, if you scroll down just a little bit, let me count here. 4th row down, this one that has this thumbnail that says new to Thinkorswim platform, start here. If you click on that full playlist, I put together a series of 8 structured lessons where we just go through the platform, starting on the first page, top to bottom, left to right, we get acquainted with the tools and features of the platform. So I think that's a really good way to get started with Thinkorswim. Matter of fact, we even start before that. I just show you how to download it, how to get logged in, and then we start the navigation. Now, another thing that Brent and I would suggest that you do is to follow us on social media. You can find us on X, you can find us on LinkedIn, you can follow Brent on X at Brent Moores CS. You can find and follow me on X at Cameron May CS. And I post on here frequently. For example, I just posted this a few hours ago. I asked my followers, hey traders, do you see a large drop like this one on Lennox International as a signal to sell, as a signal to buy, or does it tell you something else? And it'll be interesting as people answer that question for me. I just come back and chat back with them. And that allows for interaction in between these live streams. Now I do the same thing over on LinkedIn. So pop over to LinkedIn. You just go to linkedin.com/in and /Cameron May CS. That's my handle there as well. And I post here. And if you reply to my posts on LinkedIn, I just try to reply right back to you again. I think I replied to about, 20, 25 posts this morning. So thank you for doing that, guys. But everybody, go enjoy the rest of our webcasts. We have a couple more coming up today. Brent, thanks for helping out in chat. Thanks to everyone for all the thumbs up that I see. We have about 79 people watching the live stream right now, and we have 30 have already clicked the thumbs up. That's definitely appreciated. That's like a pat on the back to your presenter for a job well done, but just as importantly, it gives a boost to my video in the YouTube algorithm so more people can find these discussions, like 10 things you can do without leaving the charts. All right. Janelle, thank you. Let's see, was there a survey? I don't think so. Nope. But in any case, if you ever see a survey, if you take the time to fill it out, that's fabulous. Everybody go have a great day. I will see you in tomorrow's webcast. Maybe I'll see you again next Wednesday for another discussion of getting started with Thinkorswim. I'll also look for you on X and on LinkedIn, but whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.